I want to speak a bit about fasting today. I just got off of a 3-day fast, absolutely nothing but water, 3 days straight. Started on Sunday night, finished on Wednesday night. Um, yeah, no. So the thing about fasting is you need to have a reason to fast. Because let's just say you're fasting, right? Let's just say you're fasting and you're sacrificing yourself for God. You're sacrificing your flesh for God to get closer to God. No matter how long the fast is, you're sacrificing, right? But when you get into prayer, when you get into reading your word, you're not really particularly asking for anything. You're not expecting God to do anything in your life in regards to this fast. That's why I feel like deep down, if you're fasting without praying, or fasting without having a reason to fast, or fasting without expecting something from God, then you're basically dieting. To be completely honest, you're basically just dieting. Because how can you not do something? How can you not involve God into something that is so spiritual? I know myself, I'm guilty of this because I used to fast for so long. I'd fast for like a week or 2 weeks, but it wasn't really a proper fast. It was like I'd wake up and I wouldn't eat until like 12. You know, not really a fast, but it was my first time and I was trying it out. But at the same time, it's not like I was really praying for anything. It's not like I was expecting God to move in my life. Until one of my good friends that introduced me to the church that I'm in now, he asked me like, "Why are you fasting?" And the first day of this 3-day fast, I didn't know what to tell him. Because obviously you can say, "Oh, I'm fasting. I want to get closer to God." Yeah, and what else do you want to do? What else do you want him to do? And that's when like I went back. I took a step back and I asked myself, okay, where am I at in my life right now, and where do I want God to move in my life? And then to be completely honest, I asked him for direction. I asked God to move in my life, to give me direction and to speak life into the opportunities that he's going to give me so that I will be able to see his hand in them, so that I will be able to take in those opportunities, involve him in them, and and in doing so, get closer to God through that as well. What I'm trying to say is you need to ask God to move in your life. You need to expect him to have an impact on you while you're sacrificing. Because it's not like Jesus just said, "Oh, I'm just going to fast for 40 days and 40 nights." No. Jesus had a reason to fast. Same way you need to have a reason when you're fasting. You can't just fast for the sake of fasting. You can't just sacrifice your body for the sake of sacrificing your body and your flesh. You need to have a reason to do these things. My reason is that, like I said before, I needed direction. I didn't want direction. I needed direction. It's the beginning of the year. A lot of people have a lot of things on their plates. I have a lot of things on my plate. But I can't complain about that because I'm hungry. You can't complain about God putting a lot on your plate when you wanted to eat. And if you're hungry, you're going to eat everything up. Okay, we're fasting, so we're not eating. But when you're sacrificing, you need to expect God to move. So what did I do? So I went into this fast, and there were particular nights, 2 nights out of the 3, that my church was hosting prayer nights. So this was for an hour or so, and I would just get out in that hour. I would get in the presence of God and I would ask him, and I would expect him to move and give me direction. But while you're doing this, you also need to know that God's timing as well is a completely different facet that you need to take into consideration. Because you may ask for things during your fast, but it's not like you're going to get them the day after your fast or when you break your fast. You need to expect God to move, but move on his timing as well. Move on his framework. I think the important thing about fasting that we miss is that, yes, we're sacrificing our body. Yes, it's difficult, but we need to have a foundational reason why we're doing it. The past 2 times I fasted, I didn't have a foundational reasoning. For this recent fast, I almost didn't. For this recent fast, I almost didn't as well, until my friend asked me, why are you fasting? You need to ask yourself, why are you fasting? Is it to get closer to God? Yes, of course. But what else? Do you want him to give you direction? Do you want him to improve a particular relationship in your life? Do you want finances? Do you want a car? Do you want a house? Do you want to be able to hear his voice? That's another thing that I asked for. There's a lot of things that you can ask for. And not saying that God is going to give them to you right away. But if it's for his perfect will, if it's in his plan, then it's going to happen without a shadow of a doubt. God isn't slow in his promises. It says in his word. I think it's Peter, 2 Peter. God's not slow in his promises. He's completely out of time and space. He sees things before we've already seen them. He knows that we're going to receive this blessing. He really sees, okay, he's asking for this, but 10 years down the line, 5, 10, whatever the amount of time is, he's already received that blessing. So it also comes down to trusting God that what you're doing, how you're sacrificing your flesh, is for a good cause, and it's for him. Because at the end of the day, we need to live for God as well. That's why we're fasting. And if you are fasting, I commend you. Like, well done. High five from me. You know, fasting is not easy at all. And if you're committed to doing it for a particular amount of time, not saying it needs to be 3 days, not saying it needs to be 2 days, not saying it needs to be 24 hours. But if you are going to genuinely sacrifice, not do a 4-hour thing like I did. I thought I was sacrificing, I wasn't. But you need to sacrifice. What does sacrifice mean? Sacrifice means putting away what we desire and lifting God up in the process. How is not eating how is not eating a particular food that you want to eat? How is that sacrifice going to bring you closer to God if you don't involve him in it, and if you don't do it for a particular reason? I feel like I used to overcomplicate this relationship that I had with God, but it's pretty simple. We can't act like God is not hearing us. We can't act like we don't have a relationship with God. Because that's why we're doing this. We're doing this to get closer to him. We're doing this to hear him better, to hear him more clearly. That's why I fasted in the first place. I wanted to hear what God's plan is for my life. And I feel like I've heard that. I just need to now trust in his timing. You need to trust in his timing. You need to know that you need to know and trust that God knows what he's doing in your life. And everything that he has in store for you will reach you at the exact perfect time that it needs to. But what are you going to do in the meantime as well? Are you going to complain and be like, oh, I want this now? Are you going to, be impatient? Or are you going to praise him? What are you going to do while you wait? What are you going to do while you fast? Are you going to pray? Or are you going to just think about the food that you're going to have after the fast? I'm guilty of that. I did that. I quickly pulled myself back though, because I realized that's not why I'm fasting. I'm not fasting. I'm not fasting like as a tolerance break. I'm fasting to get closer to God. I'm not fasting to look forward to food. I'm fasting for his kingdom. Why are you fasting? You need to ask yourself that question. And once you have asked yourself that question, you may not get the answer, but you need to seek for the answer. You need to really try and get it. I hope this message isn't too confusing. I hope it's not too all over the place. But when you're fasting, you need to have a reason to fast. And I promise you, once you find that reason, once you ask God for it, you will receive it. Because it says in his word, it's a promise. You will receive what you ask for. Asking you will receive, knocking the door will be opened. It says in his word. So yeah, When you fast, when you sacrifice, do it for a reason and involve Him. Expect Him to move. Don't wait for the fast to end and then you're like, oh, nothing happened. You know? Wait for God. Involve Him. Seek Him. Intentionally be in the Spirit. Intentionally ask Him for overflow of the Spirit in your life, in your heart. And while you are fasting, make sure that you're doing it to raise Him up. And in the process, He will raise you up as well. Just do it for a reason. Have a reason. Have an end goal. I want to say this to God. I want Him to move like this. God, I'm expecting you to do this in my life. I'm expectant of a change. I'm expectant of a shift. Because He can do it. But are you expecting it? When you turn your car on, are you expecting it? Are you expecting the engine to run? When you go to McDonald's and you order a quarter pounder, are you expecting a Cajun chicken? When you pray to God and you ask Him for guidance and you ask Him to hear Him and you ask Him to lead you, are you going to expect Him to do that? You need to expect God to do that. You need to fast with an expectation, because He will move, whether you like it or not. Have a good day.